Здравствуйте, товарищи, and welcome to our 29th day of our month of mods. Only 2 more to go, and today we're talking about another Rome Total War mod, in case you wanted a Rome Total War mod that didn't focus in on Rome. Also, the guy who suggested this to me seemed pretty enthusiastic about the mod, so I figured it would make a good addition to our list. Anyway, the mod we're going to be talking about today is a mod called Troy Total War. So, if you couldn't tell by the name, this mod focuses in on the legendary Trojan Wars. You know, the whole thing with the Trojan horse and the face that launched 1,000 ships and blah 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 blah. And as far as I can tell, none of those things are in this actual mod. No, there's no Trojan horse, at least as far as I can tell, in Troy Total War, but there's lots of bloody combat, so you'll have to make do with that. Also, the only link I could find to the extremely forgettable movie Troy was a character model at the start which looked vaguely like Brad Pitt. But honestly, I've forgotten the overwhelming majority of that movie, so I can't say if there's any more links beyond that. Anyway, there are 2 things about Troy Total War that really set it apart from the vanilla version of Rome Total War. And that is that you have a very focused map that only covers modern-day Greece and Turkey, and a very pre-classical era set of factions and units. One of the things I love is that when you start the campaign, your starting year is listed as an incredibly vague 3,000 years ago. Because there's a lot of controversy over sort of when the Trojan War started, or if it even happened at all. Though the starting date is listed around somewhere between 1260 and 1240 BCE, so vaguely little over 3,000 years ago. Anyway, you've got a wide variety of these pre-classical era factions. Of course, you've got Troy, and you've got your city-states like Athens and Sparta, but as well you've got factions like the legendary Amazonian women, and a whole ton more factions which I've never heard about, because honestly, I don't have a lot of familiarity with this era of history. And all these factions have units which have completely impronounceable names to me, such as the Shafiri Aristi. Yeah, you better beware of them. They'll get you. Anyway, one of the shifts with these pre-classical era units is a very heavy emphasis on chariots. Most factions have a wide variety of chariot units to select from, and limited actual cavalry units, or some factions have no cavalry units at all, which adds a pretty cool dynamic to the battles. Also, considering the fact that there is 0 overlap with the vanilla version of Rome Total War, that means every single unit in this game is a custom unit. And I really like the look of these units, because it really reminds you that this is taking place about 800 years before Rome Total War is supposed to start. So you have sets of units with very primitive looking armor, or sometimes no armor at all. And that's reflected in the weapons as well, with the swords and axes looking very much like they've been forged by these ancient era societies. Overall, giving the battles a very distinct look that is very different from the vanilla version of Rome Total War. And the battle's emphasis on chariot warfare also gives them a distinct feeling. But before we wrap up, and this mod seems to have taken me much less time to wrap up than a lot of the other ones, I will say though that it does fall into the same problem with having to have a clean install of Rome Total War. However, some people have commented to me that it is possible to have multiple mods for Rome Total War installed. I just seemingly have yet to implement it. So I guess this marks the 3rd time in our month of mods that I've had to uninstall and reinstall Rome Total War. So just keep that in mind when checking out this mod. Anyway, I hope you liked this look at Troy Total War, and join us tomorrow for our last mod. And until then, this has been Joseph Vizronov signing out for now, and until tomorrow, you guys take care.